thank you so much for joining us on Uctv. My name is Nora Sende. Today we are discussing topical issues, and today we are discussing an issue that so many Ugandans are not very aware about or are not so open to, and that is fostering and adoption. Today in studio I have a social worker from Nsambya Babies Home who is going to discuss so many details about fostering and adoption, the differences and the challenges and everything within that topic. Well, I have Bernard Bakanzewa, who is right now in studio. Thank you so much, Bernard, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Good evening to our viewers. My name is Bernard Bakanzewa. I'm a social worker at Child Welfare and Adoption Society in Nsambya Babies Home.
Oh, Bernard, thank you so much for making time once again. As you know, adoption and fostering are two different things.
Yes.
Just start by clearing up the difference between these two.
Thank you so much for such an opportunity to share with our viewers what fostering and adoption is all about. First, fostering, like any other employee that has gotten a new job, fostering is like probation. We foster a child for 1 year. Take it that it's like a probation period that you stay in as you've gotten a new job. So after fostering a child, you stay with him or her for a period of 1 year as you're trying to study, to learn, to see whether you manage to stay with this child for life. He's learning you and you're also studying him. So what entails in this foster period, you are a foster parent. Before you're getting a child, you are a prospective foster parent. After being approved by the area supervising probation officer, say for Kampala, we stationed at 5 divisions, and each division has got a probation officer. For Wakiso, we stationed at municipality level. And for other districts, it's at district level. This is where the probation officer resides or sits. So you are willing prospective foster parent, you go to your area probation officer, say from maybe Wakiso, you go to any municipality that belongs to you or where you belong. They make an assessment on you to find your worth to foster a child. When it is found worth that you can foster a child, you refer to any legally operating home, say Nsambya Babies Home, to consent or to see whether the child that you applied for is within their care. This doesn't mean that whichever child is at the care is ready for foster. There are some background checks that are done on such a child or children before they are placed for foster.
Yeah, Bernard, before we go into the background checks of fostering
Yes, please.
a child,
Yes.
let's dig more into adoption, as in the difference. Just the clarity there, because so many people get it wrong.
Okay.
They think fostering is equal to adoption.
Okay.
So what is the line there? I think there is a blaring line.
There is a very big difference between foster and adoption. Fostering is the period you stay with the child. That is 1 year as you're studying him, as you're also studying you. And then adoption, this is a legal process, the final process for you to get the child legally. It even entails going before the court, and the magistrate grants you. You might go in for hearing and ruling. Hearing might take like 2 to 3 times, and then the 3rd or 4th, they grant you adoption.
So you made foster child, but legally that child does not belong to you if you haven't adopted a child.
Exactly. When you foster a child and you've not adopted, the child is just in between. It's not at the institution and it's not at your home. Why? Whichever happens on this fostered child, chances are that he might bounce back to the institution. Why? These binding papers, it expires after 1 year. So when the year expires, you've not initiated adoption, it means the child is in between the home, the fostered home, and the institution. So
we have binding papers in both.
Exactly.
The only difference is that the fostering binding paper expires.
Exactly.
Whereas the adoption binding paper
it is for life.
Is for life.
Yes.
So there is no reverse when it comes to adoption.
Well, there's a reverse, but the process you went through to get a child is the same process you go through when you reverse in the process. That is, court issues, you must go through court before it is being reversed. And when this adoption is finished, the child has all the sole right like any other biological child of yours. Say if death does you part, he's entitled to have a share on your property. He's even entitled to being your heir if at all you've chosen him or her to be, contrary to foster. Foster is like you're keeping him or her for a timely period. Yes.
Oh, okay. Generally, as a social worker, you have been through this a lot and you have seen this happening.
Yes.
Give us an overview of what the landscape of adoption and fostering looks like in Uganda right now.
Oh, thank you so much. The general landscape for foster and adoption in Uganda, initially, it was termed to be for international. Why? There's too much fees that are entailed in it that may deter these other local foster parents to do so. Because we do have it in mind that it's only whites who have money to waste. Take, for instance, you foster the child for 1 year. You've provided him with all the needed services or facility, from health to education, clothing, name it. And then it comes after 1 year, they demand you to finalize with adoption, they also meet legal fees, which is in millions. And this turns out to be a challenge to local. And this was the determining factor for local foster parents to initiate fostering and adoption. Contrary to adoption with the international, these international parents, they well know what adoption is. Why? Adoption grants you a sole right to own the child. If you're an international foster parent, when you wind up with adoption, God grants you all the sole right to even go back to your mother country with your child, adding another name onto this child, making your child to be yours for life, contrary to Ugandan context. And also it is being biased by the issue of culture. We locals, you have too much value and belief in culture, contrary to international. Culture, or culturally, the child we know as our own child in the family is the one who is within our lineage. And then there comes this fostered child where you have nothing like any attachment apart from paperwork. So chances are, for a fostered child in our local setting, it was easily being denounced. They're taken as maybe a visitor, taken as a stranger in the family.
Right.
Contrary to this international. Because once paperwork is done, international, they do value you as their own. Yes.
Interesting. Now, Bernard, just give me a few reasons as to why you think adoption and fostering a child is important.
Okay.
Not to the child this time, to the parent who is adopting. Why is that important? What value does that bring to the family or to the person that is actually doing this?
Thank you so much. In the first instance, we are all God's creatures. So under normal circumstances, it is a way of giving back to God. Many come to our offices confessing, I am a product of fostering or adoption. I tried to look for a way of giving back to God, and I failed. Not until I came up with such an idea of fostering so that I emulate what I went through as a fostered child. And then next, it is a corporate social responsibility giving back to the community. You have this much, but you have no way of giving back to the community. So you fostering a child is the only way of giving back to the community. And then also, third one, giving a home to the homeless person. That is a hidden treasure. That is a life happiness that you've accorded onto such a person. Just imagine you growing up in an institution, whichever you talk is in ours. Not saying that this is ours or this is mine. This is ours as a community of Ensemble Beast Home. And yet you can say, this is our family. I belong to this family. A sense of belonging comes into you when you are given a family. Yes. And also, last but not least, culturally, or getting an identity of, say, a clan. Remember, all our fostered or maybe admitted children, to those ones who come without cultural names or clan names, we only give them Christian names. How do you feel if at all you say, I belong to Nyange clan, I belong to Ongabi clan, and many other totems as per our Ugandan context. So it is a sense of identity, since wherever we go, as we local, we Ugandans, it is so challenging, if not difficult, to deter someone from his or her clan.
Right.
Yes.
So we have heard very nice things about adoption and why people should, you know, are encouraged to adopt, and it's all good and it's all flowering, and it's something that really everyone should look up to if they decide, you know.
Yes.
But there are also challenges that come with that, really.
Yes.
We've heard of stories that children have been adopted and then they turn otherwise. How would you counteract that? What are some of the challenges that sometimes come with adoption, and how can we anticipate and counteract some of these challenges that come with adoption?
Wow, thank you so much. As we earlier on shared, that this fostered child is like any other child. So the way you discipline your own biological is the way you're meant to discipline this child.
Right.
So failure to discipline, there are a number of challenges that may come up with. One, disclosure effect. There comes Bernard and Dora, you're a couple, you've initiated fostering and adopting, but it's not in the knowledge of other family members. The challenge comes in when any of the family members spills the beans onto this child. This child may turn out to be so much as we have the degree of animism, but his might stray even go beyond 100.
Disclosure.
Yes.
That's when they reveal to him or or her
Yes.
that you are actually not a biological child of this family, but you came in through adoption.
Exactly. But however, this disclosure effect, it has a process. Before you disclose to this child, there are some signs or there are some non-verbal communication cues that you see that may deter you to this, or that may influence you to disclose. One, the factor is age. At times you might look at disclosing to the child when he's still tender. But however, it is a gradual process. You start initiating this process, maybe you say when you start attaining teenage age, in a gradual way. Failure to do that, it is so challenging for an adult or for a young child to lose trust in you as an adult. Say you are the foster mother. What else can you say for your fostered child? Loses completely no trust in you. Why? She has heard it from a neighbor saying, do you know what? You are not a child within that family, you are a product of foster. So many will perplex into his or her minds, so many unanswered questions that may result into him being so anemic in the future. Yet on the other side, if you prepare this child in time, at one point she'll say thank you. Why? You'll orient her or him or her throughout the background that warranted his or her admission to the home, and also resulted into you getting him out of the home into where you are. For him, for that, he'll be appreciative of what you did. But short of that, it will be regrets and he'll never forgive you. Another challenge also with the fostered children, as you well know from Kampala, most of our children are going from Kampala. You don't know any culture attached to him. As you well know, with our locals context, culture is like our lifeblood. Deterring someone from culture is really a challenge. So you may want to raise him up in a Uganda setting, and yet this child is maybe from the north. So the northern culture in him, we keep on haunting. The challenge will come in when you try to balance the central culture and the northern culture. And another challenge you foster if you're not resilient. If you as a foster parent, you lose patience, you never gain out of him. And it will be a challenge throughout life. Because these children, they need a lot of patience, a lot of time. As you study him or her, you reserve some time for being patient over him. Yes, having hope, maybe with the time, he will change. With the time, he will adapt what I oblige him to do, something like that.
Well, Bernard, that is very interesting, and I see that it is actually a very deliberate thing to foster or adopt a child. It kind of leads me to a question of the parents of these children that are being fostered, or the adopted children. Don't they need a little bit of training? It seems to me like it has to be well thought out, and everything has to be, you know, a little bit prepared properly. You understand? And also the way you mentioned it about disciplining the child. It seems to me that the fostered child or an adopted child has to be truly taken in, truly like a biological child.
Exactly.
You know? What do you have to say about that?
Okay. For sure, there is a lot of counseling at all levels for either parties, depending on the age of the child to be fostered. For the prospective foster child parent, that is before being approved to be a foster parent, you call the prospective. But for you, when you are at the stage of being a prospective foster parent, whichever level, whichever degree you attain, there's a number of counseling. The time, right from the time you enter Nsamba Baby's home, on the first word, go for foster, we engage you a number of times. And it has no session that maybe this is the last session. At all stages, there's counseling. After we engaging you, there's the other person you talked about. You remember the probation officer? Probation and social welfare officer, that is like our minister for children affairs. This minister for children affairs is in, for, as you say, children and family affairs, is more enriched in such a vocation. So there's a number of engagement, there's a lot of engagement on either parties. We as the home, as the social worker, and the probation officer. Whichever level you attain, there's engagement and counseling. And with this counseling, it is an interactive counseling, like the way we are here. You're given your view, what you knew about it, what is your say, what is your expectation, does your expectation rhyme with the child? Then it still comes to your application. I'm Bernard, I'm looking for to foster a girl child of this age, 0 to this. So within the age range that you're seeking to foster, that is, that's where we center our counseling, but also basing on your family setup. You might say you're a single mother, you also counsel in that line. You might say maybe you're a challenged parent, you also counsel in that line. You might also be coming from an angle that throughout life you never been embraced with a child. So counseling is a case by case, as we may say. We don't say that we have a uniform counseling, but counseling is a case by case basing on your case and driving factor to foster.
Okay.
Yes.
And I see it's just like life. You keep on learning different things.
Exactly.
And so is the whole fostering thing and counseling. When you talked about foster parents and the discipline and the counseling, what ran into my mind is, what are some of the requirements to foster a child that may lead to adoption of a child? Because not every parent is going to go and is going to be given the authority to actually foster a child, right?
Yes.
So what are some of those requirements that you would look at in a lawful manner that would actually warrant someone that, okay, now you are eligible actually to foster this child, or later on get into adoption?
Thank you so much. The first key driving factor is the urge, or the driving reason. You might say, may have come to get someone who will be helping me at home, the helper, house helper. So if you come in such an angle, it might deter you and you never be suited to foster a child. So the driving factor for foster is the one that qualifies you to be an eligible foster parent. And then next, what we look at is your health status. how are you standing health-wise? With us, when you come to our office, like a hospital where we have a psychological social worker, that there is disclosure effect. If you're HIV positive, disclose to us. Because if you don't, with the time we shall get to know it. And in case we know it by ourselves, it means there is no trust in you. Because at one point we shall ask for a general medical checkup that will reveal everything about you. And then the next issue is about your financial stand. Why are we looking at the financial capability? Remember, you're welcoming a new soul into your life. So why finance? Won't this child be a financial burden on your side? Will you be in a position to continue to carry on the parental duties and responsibilities like any other parent? Will it be a setback that had it not been this child, I would have been this way. Had it not been this child, I would have been all that far. But because of this child now has come to be a financial burden, that's why you look at your financial support, your income. What do you do to earn a living? It is a key factor that may make you to be worth a foster parent. And then another issue also that we all know is a law-abiding by citizen. If you not a law-abiding by citizen, it might also deter you. Why and how? Because we send you to Interpol. Before Interpol, we go to any police headquarters for a certificate of good conduct that runs for 1 year. And after 1 year, because you know Interpol expires after 6 months. So this certificate of good conduct from police officers, it is to run us throughout this foster period. And then the Interpol report comes in for adoption. So guess what? If at all the Interpol comes out as someone who has been involved in a number of criminals or being a number of atrocities, just see automatic you shall deter from the process.
Even if someone had cleaned up his life or her life and is now a responsible citizen, how does that change?
In the case it is maybe you just cleaned up, just say 2 years back, since fostering goes for 1 year and the next year is adoption, there is what we call a re-way. There is another additional year put onto you. If you're just cleaning up you from rehabilitation, there's another year that is added onto the foster period to be 2 years for you, because it happens to be a special case. You just from rehabilitation, we don't know what will happen. So when 1 year expires and you say that you're really a reformed person, adoption can continue, but under close supervision and monitoring.
Interesting. Now, Bernard, what exactly is the age period in which a child can be adopted? And can actually a child decide, okay, for example, I want Bernard to adopt me. How does that go? Or it's always the other side of it is the parent that chases the adoption. Have you came across those scenarios?
Since in Zambia it's a baby's home, we majorly handle babies and children. That's from 1 day or from 1 hour, because we've even gotten some of those ones for 1 hour old, from 1 hour to 5 years. And the process is like this. You may put in your application, as we said earlier on, specifying the age range and the sex. So we, as in Zambia-based home, at the back of our minds, we know which child is ready for foster. We don't just parade them like as if you're in a window market that you pick, I need this one. At the back of our minds, in the office, you are 3, headed by our administrator and 2 social workers who is in the field. So basing on what we've done on this child, it makes us to ascertain, really Bernard is ready for foster. Why? There's a number of background check that is done on this child. And this child might be, maybe say you've said I need a child of about, now from our home, you can say that you need a child of 1 month and you get him or her. Because this period is not equal enough for us to judge that based on what we've done in 1 month is equal enough for the child to be given in for foster. There's a lot that we do in to ascertain or as also prove, because in court, remember for adoption, they ask you what else did you do that made you recommend this child for foster with intent to adopt. We visit the scene, not once, by visiting the area chairperson, all those bodies. After the chairperson, we place the children in television papers. After we go to, at times we go to TV adverts, in newspapers also as well. And when we see that we've done a lot to trace for this child's parents and relatives, but all in vain, we write what we call a child's profile. We share it with the other minister we talked about for children and family affairs to also go through it. At times they are called back. What you've done is not enough. Continue. Also, based on what you've done, it is okay. I recommend him or her for foster. So once the child is recommended by our area probation officer for foster, you come in with your application, you go through it. If the child is within your application, we pick him out of the menu. You find him or her in office. Based on the application, this is the child we have for foster. However, since it's like a marriage life commitment, we don't expect you to give us an obvious answer from there. We let you go back to your home. We take like 2 weeks as you're meditating upon it. Then later on you come to confess. Based on the child you introduced before me, I'm ready to make him or her my own by fostering. But not with deciding, and not you also just coming and you random pick, something like that. Yes.
Let's now go into the life of a foster child.
Okay.
It seems like there are the stages in which, that comes with. Can you just expound to us how the life of a foster child should be handled one way or the other?
Okay. Thank you so much for such a question. But as we said, when you come to a home, already with the application, and we see the child lives within your application, we introduce you before the child. You take 2 weeks, you go through, meditating upon it, visiting the self in you. When you come up with the conclusion that I'm ready to make him or her my own, we introduce you before the social background that resulted into his admission to the home. Why do we open up to you is that when you take up this child, it won't be a burden, it won't be a blame, or you won't be using his social background to abuse him. Shame upon you, good enough, it's me who's saving you, after all you're just picked from a pit latrine, something like that. So that's why we introduce you before such a social background, so that you appreciate the social background for the child that you intend to make your own. And then next, these children are like any other normal child. The way you nurture and nature your child, you see nature and nature, they go hand in hand. Or the way you discipline your own biological is the way you expect you to discipline this fostered child. Short of that, you live in regrets. Why live in regrets? You may say, oh no, this is my own, I can't punish him. And this is the fostered child, I can't also punish him as well. The end result, it won't really be unbearable. When it comes to disciplining, you discipline him or her like any other child. When it comes to introducing him before the other family members, don't put exception. And this fostered child, it is for sure it will be a curse. It will be like an abuse on him. These are my children and him. So why separate him and him? You only say, lump summly, these are all my children. And they say, and him, you just dwell with it. When it comes to any other right that your biological child enjoys, he's also entitled to it. The fact that you willingly wrote in, you entered into some baby's home social worker's office in need of a child, is the way you have to initiate this child. All the culture, the norms, the discipline in this child to be in, it is to instill in such a child. Not another child, not another person. And when you are to initiate this issue of fostering, there are a number of questions that we share as we're interacting here.
Yes.
How many children do you have? How many people do you stay with? So that we need to know the surround, we call it echo map, who will surround this child when it's taken to the home. If your children can consent, if they're above 18, we call them in our offices to consent. That they are ready and they are aware of the process that the mother or the father is initiating, and they are in position to support him or her throughout. I'm not saying, look at you foster the child, when the child wasn't initiated into such. So if you have your children when they are all, let's say, above 18, we engage one after the other. What is there say about this child that the father is about to foster? Should we get any negativity in any of your child, we hold the process. Not until this relative, this son of yours, this daughter of yours, consents openly and positively. Why? The best interest is in this fostered child. Will he be welcomed in the family? Will he be entertained? Will it be handled without exceptional? Something like that. That's why we keep on looking at that.
Okay.
There is also this right to having a clan name, right to having a religion, right to going to school, to education. Mind you, the fact that in some babies' home is under Kampala Archdiocese, it doesn't mean that only fostered children, fostered parents must be Catholics. We are open to whoever comes. It is only one's heart, not a religion, but one's heart that drives all our denominations.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed, really.
Yes.
When we talk about fostering and adoption, there is a lot that goes into it, really. But one thing for sure is that you have to have the urge and you have to be willing actually to take in these children as your very own biological children in terms of love, in terms of discipline, and in terms of commitment, and not just because you want to adopt for their sake, as Bernard Bakanzewa is actually explaining to us this very evening, the processes of adoption and the nitty-gritties that are entailed in this. The other question that I really need to understand, Bernard, is that what if you have a child who has been fostered or led into adoption, and the reverse is now that the child wants to come out of this family for one reason or the other? How frequent are these scenarios, and how do you handle such scenarios in most cases? It may not be a very bad reason. It could be just probably a parent disciplining a child, and this child probably in adolescence feels like he is being mistreated, or she. How do you handle such scenarios?
Okay, thank you so much. Now the fact that the child is in another family, which is a fostered family, we hand them as two parties. One, we engage either parties. We engage the child separately and the parents separately. We get to know why, what is the driving force for this child to run away from the fostered family. If we do find out, we harmonize. After harmonization, this child is taken back. If at all it needs some time of healing, is kept temporarily for a certain period as is being engaged, and with the time we keep on making visits to our foster family as with the child, so that the child is not completely deterred from the family. And with time we replace him again. If the situation worries, and then we engage in the legal affairs, like the probation officer. If it's an unadopted child, we engage in court. But you only engage in court after gathering evidence for either parties. If it is a justification for separation, you must be having concrete evidence to support cancelling of adoption process. Yes.
Oh, okay. Now, before we close, actually, we've talked about adoption, the nitty-gritties of it. What are the scenarios whereby a parent comes and a parent is willingly wants to give out his child or her child for adoption? How do you handle that as a social worker?
Okay.
What experiences do you have with that?
Thank you so much for such a question. But at times within some baby's home, it is a rare case. But under normal circumstances, since we are under Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, we always have refresher courses, we have workshops and concerning such key issues and key factors. We try to look at the driving force for your willingly giving in your child. If we see that your factors are justifiable, you have to write, we have to go into what we call a memorandum of agreement. You, the parent who is giving in your child for adoption, and then you also engage in other locals, that is the area chairperson, not only the area chairperson, but also other relatives. If you say you're tired of this child, are you the only person in your family? Is this child denounced throughout your family? Not any relative of yours interested in him or her? So if all these suggest that this child must be given away, we do so, but under you giving out an agreement that you will never meet him or her at any time. You count him as a goner child or a dead person in your life, that you never see him again. And when adoption comes, you go to court to testify, relinquishing all your parental duties and responsibilities into an adoptive parent. And when court grants adoption to such a child that you're given away, it means it marks the end of you seeing that child anymore. You never see him, you never meet him, you never have any interaction with him throughout life.
Really?
Yes.
Even if it's on a one-on-one basis, like without without any interference. I mean, if the child decides, okay, I just need to go and visit my parents, create some bit of a relationship with them, that is okay, right?
At times, when one comes to foster a child, it means he's having the urge for having a child in life. Maybe he has never had a child in life. Say maybe he's lacking, he doesn't have this sex. I want to go back to male children. I need to at least get a female child. So with such a parent, she's having too much love for this child. So for you, a biological person coming into this child's life, she terms it as trespass.
Right.
Because as you know, a parent, you remain a parent. You might have some influencing factors into this child, and when he goes back, he happens to be a different person. That's why you called before court to testify that I'm of sound mind. I've willingly given in my parental duties and responsibilities onto the adoptive parent. Never at one point will I demand for this child. They sign and put a court seal. So with the child, if I say maybe say is within 5 to 4 years and below, when you demand for the child, for the parent, you an adoptive parent, you're free to say your parent died, or your parents died. I'm an adoptive parent, I'm a willing parent, I'm a parent of goodwill who is ready to take you up as my own parent, my own child. Yes.
Now that we are closing up, I just need to understand one little thing, and that is, why is it important? Or what are some of we've seen a little bit of hiccups or disadvantages that come with international adoptions, especially the loss of culture.
Yes.
Some people feel like when the international parents come in and take the children are completely detached from their local cultures. It's a whole different life and experience altogether. What is your say about that?
With the international adoption, of course, it is a challenge to we Africans in a way that we only base on paperwork that is produced before court. Those binding documents, the Interpol, the travel documents, and those are attestations from their area, their states of origin. In actual sense, you have to keep on monitoring these children. But take, for instance, we are in Uganda, and a foster child or adoptive parent is from America. The organization is not in the reach to fund you go make a follow-up on this child. And yet, if it is a local one, we frequent our visits. During foster, we visit you 2 times, that is after 6 months. After adoption, in a year we make a follow-up on you once. And then what will happen to this adopted person internationally who is there to make a follow-up on him? It becomes a challenge on him or her. And also there's also this question, we had one from German. Thank God that these international are so open than we Africans. This child, as you well know, we are all black, and German are white. At one point, the child engaged the parent. You say you're my parent, you're white and black. What's the cause of this difference?
Right.
So, based on the way this child was initiated into adoption, he was adding up. It was rhyming. So what the father did, he had to pay for the air ticket. This is what I've been sharing with you. You're an adopted child. But this doesn't mean that I don't love you. I did it because of love to foster you and adopt you. If you need to know your biodata, Uganda is your mother country, and this is the organization you came from. And guess what? When this child was brought to Zambia, went to baby unit. We have what we call baby unit for these small babies. This boy was in position to support the bed where he was sleeping. He spent with us for a week, he played with these other little ones, and appreciated what the adoptive parent initiated as an adoptive parent. And when he went back, it was only saying, thank you for giving me life, thank you for all this what you've done to me, that fed my biological parent to do so. So the challenge comes in when you're not ready to open up to the child, exactly where your roots are and the social background that resulted in you being adopted. And also another challenge with this international, as you well know, culture and the family lineage. You can't stream along for all the family lineage for these white people. So you don't know what I think about this adopted child. I only see you as the adoptive parent, but I don't know what the other relatives have with you as an adoptive parent. So in case they do you part, we are separated with a distance. We have no person that will make a follow-up on you. Now your adoptive parent has died. This one is taking care of as kinship. This is the next of kin that will continue the parental duties and responsibilities like the way your adoptive parent was doing, who is the deceased now. That is a gap that we have. And also another issue that we have different mindsets. I may put myself to look like maybe say a postcard, yet in actual sense I'm a wolf. To be like a sheep when I'm a wolf. You may come in the name of fostering or adopting, but when you have your own intentions. We've had a number of issues about organ transplant. And that's why ministry was so tight, came up clearly with that issue of international. That's when we try to tighten all the gates for international. That's why they even brought in the issue of we have a vetting panel. The vetting panel vets all international willing prospective foster parents. It is after being vetted by the panel that you prove the worth. Why we try to reduce on this issue of organ transplant within these innocent babies or children. And this panel, it has done a lot because there's a lot of vetting that we as a home can't do. They even connect with those mother countries of origin, directly with those ministries, and they have an interaction with such a person because we have all your paperwork at hand. So they read out all your biodata, your passport or visa number, so that they can check in from your Interpol, from your travel agency, so that they get to know what is on the ground and what are your intentions. And in case your child is taken, they have to happen to take our keen watch on it as you are distanced from them.
Well, thank you so much, Bernard. Your closing remarks right now in regards to adoption and fostering, tell the viewer out there.
Thank you so much for such an opportunity to share with our viewers, more so our local. Please come foster children. That's the name of maintaining our culture. Come foster our children. It is also a way of giving back to God for the life that He has given you. Come foster our children. It is a way that is corporate social responsibility to our communities. And also another issue, you don't know, you don't remember where your life was, where your life has been, how all the hurdles you've gone through. But if you can give back to God before you dying, you never know. You might also have mercy on you before being taken to purgatory. I also have to take this opportunity to thank all our foster parents who initiated this process and in the process of completing adoption. Those ones who were winded up with their adoption, you are our living testimonies, and you will raise our flag high. To our sponsors who have been there with us, Uganda Catholic Television, you've been there for us. Thank you so much. All the listeners, all the viewers who have really made it happen, keep on watching. You also extend the same information to whoever didn't view us. You might be maybe held up, as you well know that on Sunday we are always busy. Others will make pilgrimage to Waluleta, where our Kizitomoto came from. So you might reach late when the news are done. At least to share with us what transpired throughout our weekend news with our Catholic Television. To our administrator or to administration, Child and Adoption Society and Some Babies Home, we have our director, Sister Maria Sala Namala. We thank you so much for such an opportunity you always give us to at least hope these innocent souls. Our administrator, Sister Maria Teddy Nachanzi, who is our head of social work department. We thank you so much for the time you always give us. To our local supporters, taking care of these innocent babies and children, it is like a calling. But however, it won't be a calling if you don't support us. But our local supporters or our local donors, we thank you so much. These days, the world has changed. Much as we have it in mind that is all whites have money, but it's not the case. It takes only one's heart to support. It only takes one's heart to help. And also to my family in Kasana Luwero Diocese, Kasana Parish, St. Mugaga Sub-Parish, Namaganda Olivia Benard, my family, Jojulia Mulgonda, and Asabawe Jennifer. Thank you so much for raising me up. And then my mentor, or my mentors, Mission Sister St. Peter Clever, that is in Zambia and Chigavu. Thank you so much. You stay blessed. You stay tuned to Uganda Catholic Television. I remain Bernard Bakanzewa, social worker, Child and Adoption Society, and Zambia Babies Home. Thank you so much.
Wow, Bernard, what a closing remark. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
and
welcome.
It has been very nice having you and giving us the nitty-gritties about adoption and fostering. Really, it has been very mind-opening, very insightful, but very also heartwarming at the end of the day, because we see that when it comes to adoption, it's actually more of a ministry to God. When you look at it, it's like giving back to God. It's helping people, and so we all need to embrace it and look at it in a good light. Well, it is Nora Osende, and we have been discussing some of the highlights or some of the things that are highlighted in our communities, in our day-to-day lives. And fostering an adoption is one of those things that we really need to look deeply into it and embrace as not just Ugandan, but also as the African culture. There's so many deterrents that, sometimes make us to lose focus in regards to fostering and adoption. But Bernard has been here, and Bernard has given us very good insights. We look forward to doing so much more in this regard. Probably we shall have some success stories sometime soon. I remain Nora Osende. Do have yourself a lovely evening and a good night.